Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this session. I know during the welcome session that I did earlier, this is one of the most requested sessions here, implementing an agentic roadmap to unlock growth. And really, I just want to introduce Mickey. He is a serial entrepreneur. He's passionate about designing and building and launching products. He has written a book, Mastering Product Experience in SaaS. Currently, he is the CEO and co-founder of Foldspace AI, and he previously was the CTO and founder of Gainsight PX. And super excited about this. Mickey, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate your time for kind of coming on to talk about this.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. We're seeing, is there still background noise?
It's fixed. There you go. The floor is yours. Thank you.
All right. Awesome. Let us know if there's any background noise or anything. So I'm just going to jump in. Thanks everyone for joining. I'm really excited about this session. In the next 20 minutes, I'm going to go over agent-led growth. I'm going to cover 5 principles of building it into your roadmap. I'm really excited about this new transition as well. As Ramli said, I'm the founder of Foldspace AI. We are an AI operator agent for SaaS that understands user intent, trigger actions, and delivers outcome to users. This is my 3rd company. I've also founded Marketo Real-Time Personalization, became Adobe, also Gainsight PX. But more importantly, I actually wrote Product-Led Growth back then, the first book back in 2016. So I'm really excited to see the evolution of PLG into ALG and what it means to your product. So I'm going to talk about 5 principles for you for implementing ALG strategy. And in the end of the session, we're going to have actually a tool we crafted for this webinar. We call click tax analysis to your app that you can use and give us some feedback. So before we dive in, let's define exactly what we are talking about here. I spent a decade defining product-led growth, which means that using the product as the product itself as a driver or vehicle to acquisition, retention, expansion, and so forth. But as we discussed PLG, PLG was asking the user to self-serve. That was the whole concept, which often meant that they are kind of logging into your SaaS, and if it's B2B, they need to struggle along with the complexity of the product. Coming agent-led growth, it's kind of the evolution of PLG. It's PLG plus powerful AI. ALG is using AI agents as a primary vehicle to tie user intent directly to delivered outcomes. So I'm going to talk about also like what we mean by outcomes and what do we mean by time to value in PLG, for example. It is that the shift from users learning the product, it's conceptually, to the product learning the user, right? Instead of forcing users to memorize your workflows and clicks and trying to reduce clicks, but compromising features, you want to have an agent that allows the product to self-operate. So the user simply provides the intent and the agent handles the execution. So we're going to talk about that. Agent-led growth is changing the game, the way we serve and build our software, especially in SaaS B2B that was always kind of blocked from being a true PLG play. So why is this shift happening now? Because PLG playbook kind of hit a wall for SaaS B2B in my view. It worked, but for complex B2B software, it was there was a reality check. We solved the access problem. We tried to kind of really streamline the sign up for everyone, but we completely failed on the outcome problem, especially coming AI. Before AI, they see initial value, but today, if you see the AI first companies, it's not about the first value. They actually start delivering outcome in the first 60 seconds. So when we stopped hand-holding users in the PLG and B2B, holding users' hands, we didn't remove complexity of the product. We just dumped it into the user. We gave them tooltips, workflow, actual solution of guidance and product tools, but we didn't really deliver the outcomes. So we created a massive click tax. We asked them to serve and basically in polite way saying struggle alone, now learn what you want to learn, or sometimes just giving them a tooltip and thinking that's going to help them really configure your system. So by the way of being part of the category, by the way, I was part of the category leading companies, and we tried like Marketo and Gainsight. We tried going like with PLG motion, but we had to suddenly cut down features. And when you start to cut down features, then you lose for lack of power, right? So it's not just like an issue of one tool or another, or one strategy or another. You have to build a lot of features in B2B because your clients actually need it. And then if you're trying to make it self-serve, it becomes very, very complex because there's cognitive load on users. The good news is, like with AI, we can use different methods to really drive onboarding, adoption, and expansion without trying to force users to self-educate. So this brings us to the principle number 1 out of the 5. And if you want to fix the PLG reality check, we just talked about, we have to decouple the what from the how. The user should own the goal, the what, but the product should own the how. We want to stop forcing users to memorize complex navigation, because if the user needs to memorize your UI, you're basically going to be disrupted by more AI first experience. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples. And if they want to run, for example, a specific report, they shouldn't have to click through 5 different menus, sub-menus, apply 3 filters, even know which report to run, right? And just like you want to avoid all that click tags. And under agent-led growth, the user simply expresses what their intent is. Show me, for example, why Q3 revenue dipped. And the agent autonomously should execute the relevant report, show them that, and just collect that click tags for them. So basically tying the prompt that has the intent to the outcome without me as a user trying to figure out which report should I use. Then when I go there, how do I configure the right report, right? We all know CRMs, for example, they have valuable data, but normally very hard to use. So that's kind of on that front. What I want to show you is like the visualization of that principle 1 looks like in practice. If you're mapping your traditional SaaS path to value, or the value path, we've built for decades. This is how it looks. It starts with a user logs in, you have a specific persona, they have specific intent, they know the business problem they want to solve, but then they hit a wall because they need to go and learn the UI and so forth, and then apply best practices, eventually ending in endless click path, and basically also facing sometimes empty screens as well. So the other part we're going to talk about is how to also address at the next level. And then once they even find your relevant report or relevant screen, then there's also cognitive load. How do I effectively use that? So that's a big thing. Like, would we get more tools to educate them, or can we use AI to help them deliver the outcomes? Would we use the checklist to, again, educate and force them through a path, or would we use agents to get them there? That's the big thing. And what we want to do is change from click tags into this generative experience. That's what we are trying to do, and we're going to go through the principles to see how we can do it. But if you're adding the agentic layer, you want to take out all the complexity and the click tags and the cognitive load, and then have them reach the relevant features. It kind of draws a straight line from the intent directly to the outcome. And I'm going to show you an example, for example, from AI first companies, but you can also do that even if you're SaaS B2B. So principle number 2, so once we capture the intent, how do we actually deliver the outcome? That brings us to the principle number 2, building the generative experiences. One of the elements you want to do early in the first mile of product is to go with building generative experiences, and I'm going to show you what it means. In the PLG era, our ultimate goal was to give users beautiful design toolbox and blank canvas, right? Like, or maybe some templates. But here's the hard truth: starting from scratch is exhausting, right? The blank page or some templates, it's never exactly what I need. Now I need to even choose the template, right? So there was a big drop-off point because it requires time and domain expertise for the user to really achieve what they want. And with ALG, with agent-led growth, you stop making users start from zero. But it is crucial to distinction. We are not promising a full outcome, right? You're not going to go in and going to see a finished result. You want to go for the 80% result. I'm going to show you what I mean, because basically anyone that goes into ChatGPT today or Gemini or Lovable, all these solutions, you never get like from one prompt the end result, but you get to the 80% of things you need and even things you didn't think about. That can be a great goal because you want the last 20% to be fine-tuned by the user. So using agent, you want to build that structure, configures the right settings, create the right relevant draft, so the editor can just manage the last 20%. That's a massive win. Sometimes I see companies having this generate button, and once you click, that's it. You want to actually have more conversational input, and then you want to reach at least 60 to 80% value from the first prompt, so they can see, wow, I can actually see a ton of value, and now I'm going to fine tune. If you're going to try to go for the 100%, you might miss exactly what they meant, and now they need to reverse what you've done. So that's another takeaway when you think about generative experience, and we're going to see how it's done. For example, just less clicking, less learning, more doing. So if we take the persona, for example, if I'm for sales and I want to build presentation, one of the first thing you want to do is collect the persona so the agent knows who you are, what are the objectives that you have. The intent is about what I'm trying to achieve. You can collect that context for the agent like Gamma is doing in many other solutions. Getting that input and context to the agent helps you actually aim for that 80% value. And then the prompt, you can offer different prompts. Like if you sign up for Claude, for example, you're going to go through the same funnel, and then it's going to try to get you for the first intent, and it's going to generate your first prompt, just leaving that for you to hit enter. In this case, in Gamma, for example, they are showing you those elements after collecting that input, and basically showing you those options. And in this case, once you click on things you want, or basically for example, slides that you want, you can allow the agent to handle that magic and create that agentic path. Instead of you selecting templates, you just prompt it, and it's generating the outline, for example. It goes straight to the outcome path, and that can be possible also for other solutions, but agents now can pre-configure your dashboard. It can based on that prompt. So collecting that persona intent, creating that context, and then having the agent participate in the first generation of what you want to generate, and allowing the user, keep the user in the loop, is a path I would adopt no matter what the solution is. Whether you're generating a dashboard, you're generating a report, or you're generating a slide. And again, you can see how quickly I'm seeing best practices in Grade as well into, in this case, in Gamma, slides. So that kind of drives me to initial value. It's not necessarily the full outcome, but when coming in, I have a burning problem. I go through that, I provide the context, the agent is there to help me, and we're going to talk about also inner things you want to take care of when you're designing or building requirements for agents. So the principle number 3, after generating 80% baseline, we want to collapse the value gap. On the right side, this is my first book back in 2016 about PLG. We know in SaaS there's a value gap. There's a drop-off of users. They see initial value. They see some templates you've done, but they never become experts or champions of your product, right? So that's like something that you put a lot of effort into customer success and others to make users knowledgeable with best practices so they can truly see the true value of the product. If they don't, then they don't see ROI and they tend to churn. And today there's big headwinds in SaaS just about that. So we basically looking at embedding knowledge into the product, into the agent. It needs like three things: the knowledge, the best practices of your product, to deploy proven templates, for example. So instead of guessing, again, providing that user context into the agent, so it knows exactly what type of outcome it can converse with you, and eventually that value gap just disappears. So if the agent generates, the agent is actually the best person to generate the first element, because it's going to ingrain the best practices straight into your feature. You don't need to educate anyone. It knows the industry. If you have good inference data and the agent knows your workflow and knows your knowledge, is going to just do it as part of the generation process. A really important principle. And then if you look at the principle number 4, it's about mining the conversational signals, right? You have a lot of power in conversational signals as soon as you have prompt in front of users. And I think in the last decades, product teams have been living and died by clicks and page views and bounce rate. And I think we sit in a room looking at heat maps, trying to deduce why a user drop off the specific page. And we're trying to remove menu items. And just that's a really guesswork, especially in SaaS B2B. And in the conversational UI, the guesswork can disappear because usually literally typing exactly what they want into the text box, right? So you can actually tap into that, and every single interaction becomes ultimate demand signal. They ask for outcome. It's better than survey them, right? They tell you every day what they're trying to achieve. And if you can easily see if there's any struggle. And also you can look at like how many discussions ended up in the outcome you meant it to generate, or resolution of ticket. So users will treat the agent like magic wand. They will ask it to do things. And sometimes it will ask the agent to do things that your product physically cannot do yet. So that allows you to even know what are they trying to achieve, and even feed into your roadmap. Because once there's a chat, they might just ask for features you don't have yet, and that's a great signal as well into the future. So in the PLG era, we would just get frustrated and churn in silence. And in the ALG era, the agent logs the unresolved, the frustration sentiment, the outcomes that we've not met, and that's amazing input into your roadmap. And it allows you to prioritize with the great source of data. The principle number 5, before we wrap up, is designing agentic UX. The biggest mistake in SaaS right now is bolting basic text chat into the legacy interface and calling that AI. But text is not just one modality. True ALG requires dynamic experiences for that actually adapt to the user workflow. They change their mind. They go through different screens. So you want to make sure that you use voice when it's relevant. You use in-chat UI when it's relevant. You can summon the feature into the chat. Just avoid the whole navigation. You can also build some canvas or in-product assistance, sharing screen with the agent. There's a lot you can do to make that experience much more ingrained in your product and not just one way. And the most important thing is to continue the context along the way as they go. And then to wrap this all up, if you only remember 3 things from today, I would say like one of the strategic goals is time to value over time in product. In the old PLG days, we bragged about engagement minutes and how long users spend in our app. In ALG era, it's basically about the outcomes. So time in product is potentially a bug or not a feature. You win by collapsing the click tags, getting them to their outcome instantly. Of course, positive time in product still matters, but the outcomes matter most. So activation is not an outcome. and it's not a checklist. So I would stop celebrating when a user clicks through 10 steps and because they didn't really see outcomes. Now, again, I'm going to go to true activation when the agent actually bridges that value gap which I saw and deliver results in the first session. And then finally, reducing cognitive load as every step that you can see that the user can struggle with, you want to put the agent in and have them assist, whether through simple question answer or generative experience, or sometimes even escalating to the relevant people. But cognitive load is something that if you have good inference data, best practices, good user context, you can deliver, you can turn your users to champions instantly without them even knowing. They're going to see a great outcome. So as we finalize, there's a nice, as I said before, a nice ClickTax.ai. It's just a quick tool we've done that analyzes your product, and you guys can actually jump in, and I'm happy to get any question. That ClickTax just allows you to see, what's your situation in terms of ALG.
Awesome. I'm gonna drop that in the chat. ClickTax.ai. Great domain. Great find, Mickey. I really I can't help it. It's a cool one. I just dropped it in the chat. Reduce cognitive load is a great takeaway, which will directly optimize ClickTax. We do have a few questions here. I'm happy to kind of moderate this. We have one from Steven, and he asked this question. Great question. Especially in B2B, often people have trouble prompting, and they find cognitive load of writing a detailed prompt too high, facing burnout. When is it a good idea to incorporate an interpretation layer which can translate simple prompts to rich prompts? Or how do you get through that? I call the blank page problem, where there's the field and yeah.
That's a great question. I think first, the context is the game in AI, right? So always collect the context when they sign up. Look at Claude. Like, you sign up to Claude, it will actually try to understand your persona, your outcome, and even say, hey, you want to create, say, sales pitch deck. And as soon as you click, it will generate the prompt for you contextually in that moment. So when you build agent, make them aware of the screen and the state of the application, and always suggest those starters. And then again, in SaaS B2B, you have a lot of context you can leverage. You don't need to, that's one of the big elements. You have to keep the user context, because then they don't need to give you all that context. They never start from blank page. So the agent knows your usage. It knows that it's the second time you visited. It knows your role. So you don't have to bring the entire context. And if you do, it means that your agent doesn't get enough context. And that can definitely be frustrating for users. I see a lot of AI agents, and then you still need to tell them the context, so it beats the purpose. So one of the elements you can do is provide that context. If they're in specific screen, you can make those starters. But even if you don't, as soon as they chat, the agent will complete
autocomplete.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense. So there are strategies. Context is king. That's a great quote here. I mean, using great. Awesome. That's a question there. Another question we got from Jagdesh here is, considering human in the loop for 20% of the last mile, does the ClickTax move to Q&A tax? And how do we improve this experience? So I guess more like prompting, and you're now in a Q&A tax. I've never heard of that, but asking. Yeah.
I think it's like, because sometimes, again, one of the mistakes is to put this generative button, and then you click generate, and that's it. There's no way for me to fix or fine tune what the agent does. Imagine that you had the Claude Code GPT cursor, and after the first prompt, that's it. So I'm saying the 80% is a great way to predict what they wanted. And then the last 20 miles, in many cases, by the way, the click is actually more effective than prompting. Because everybody says everything is going to be chat. I don't think so. I think that if you built the dashboard I want, changing the dates is easier with 2 clicks versus prompting you to change the date. If I even built my great slides, if I want to change something small, it's easier to just change a word than to click. The Q&A is again more knowledge questions or best practices that again I don't think it's going to happen once the generative part is. When I say 80-20, is the generative experience. You need to map which places in your product people need to generate things. That's the great AI opportunity. Dashboard, campaign, marketing campaign, and then when they do, because what best practices you normally would tell them, what features they never used, and you always say, hey, the agent will use them. The agent will use the advanced features, and then it eliminates also the feature discoverability. We had a lot of issues. Customers said like, oh, I didn't know you had that feature. You just tell them, you spend time. Sometimes they churn. They think you don't have the feature. With agent, the agent will be trained to use the feature automatically. So as a user, I'm seeing outcomes, and then I see that it was using that feature. Those are, I think my takes is there's different experiences, and sometimes one of the pitfalls today, maybe in the future, AI the prediction is going to be so amazing, but usually today the human in the loop is effective, actually even preferred, because then you create trust as well. Right? I see what's going on. And even I see coders when they develop with Cloud Code, there's a lot of checkpoints and there's verification. Building that trust is really important as well, because then I know what's going on, I know what was generated, and I can see how it helps me drive the outcome.
Makes sense. It's really finding out when to hand it off to the human, and really critical there as well. Another question from Miriam, and this is related to the question about around trouble with prompting that Stephen asked. He asked, could templatizing the prompts be a solution to the question Stephen asked earlier around, not knowing what to prompt an AI to kind of help you with?
I think that in the end, the prompts are definitely important. So you have the conversation starters. Those are kind of things that they should show in context. I think it's something to think about. There's other maybe inner prompt enrichment that your backend should do, for example, to complete the picture. But also I would not overwhelm them with too many options, because eventually users are trying to really focus on the outcome. Again, so what you normally do, they state the outcome. For the outcome, they don't need to necessarily have a massive prompt. What I do think, and we have design sessions, and with FalseSpace, when we speak about agentic UX, I briefly went into that in my slides. But in that part, what we do is there's different types of delivering the conversation. One of the principles is the composer design. What do you mean by composer design? That action of the agent will add leading questions to clarify. So it's more conversational. For example, I want to create a social campaign. I would, the internal agent instructions, which we call action, will say, oh, what are you trying to optimize, awareness or engagement?
Wow.
And then I saw that you're speaking about PLG. Are you interested? So it can give it contextual guidance. And then it's much easier, as well as allows it to click through a quick select box. And then, because the only element of bigger prompt is to understand the full plan. So the composer pattern is like when they start this type of prompts, it goes to like a sequence of qualifying questions just to be on the same page. And the question can also be contextual, not just random question. Because the agent should show, I know you, I know the campaign, I know the channel, not say, hey, what do you want to write about? That would be less contextual. Or I see that you're writing about this topic, and I see you often try to optimize for awareness. That'll be great way to instruct the agent while building trust that the agent is going to build the right thing for the user.
That makes sense. Make it more conversational. I really appreciate that, kind of digging into what their goals are. I think this is the final question, unless somebody wants to sneak in one from Jose. It says, I understand the idea of using agents to push the users along their journey, but will all products benefit from that? For example, Microsoft is having trouble with Copilot, and I'm not a Microsoft user and I haven't used Copilot for that, but I'm curious your response to maybe which products will take advantage of this most, and which one might not be, might not have as much benefit as the other ones.
I think most product will definitely benefit. I think that because again, like it depends on the implementation. I think Microsoft and having trouble with Copilot, there's a lot of elements that lead to that, lack of context and how you build that. But again, I think that one SaaS deterministic backend is still going to be there. There's actually a reason for the workflows and rules. Whether it creates the analysis of a report, that's not a probabilistic elements. It runs a report, it runs a paycheck, it runs whatever you're doing in your, or even generate content, right? So that element is kind of deterministic before it launches an email campaign, for example. The non-deterministic part is again things that people now learn, and I'm trying to uncover and how to really win in this element. So the many pitfalls of non-successful is not putting, for example, embedded agents in context of that page. Context is king, as I said. So lack of context makes user frustrated. They go to that support chat. The support chat is asking leading questions and sending a ton of information at them as opposed to solving the problem. That's something you can fix. So I think investing in inference data and investing in how you generate, I think it's going to be a big deal. So if you take CRMs, obviously putting the data in or fetching the data is terrible. You want to have agents that can help you and build that trust. If you're in creative solutions like Adobe, for example, help me generate the 80%, allow me to fine tune. And I think the success and failure is context and inference data. If you have a great set of examples, the first shot will be very, very powerful. And if you don't, you're just racing with another solution that just use the same underlying model. I think the reason that we're seeing great outcomes with Lovable is amazing inference data. They have great examples for the agent. They don't just take a model and so when you're building now, there's a lot to learn, like from product perspective, like what does it mean to have good inference data? What context will actually improve the outcome? What experience should I design? UX has a big role. Like, should it be chat? At some point, as we said, chat is actually creating like ineffective way of communicating with your solution. Sometimes click win. So should they navigate? You can eliminate navigation, but in the page itself, go to generative part. In some cases in CRM, go to voice. There's many, many ways to do it. And then the art is also to design what the agent should be doing. It's not just, hey, one click generate. Sometimes ask qualifying questions, sometimes generate and verify, sometimes just create a plan. So it's actually, we need to learn those experiences. And I think that today, like the new books are being written about how you define and build requirements. We do have like a couple of templates. If you want to shoot me like a LinkedIn message, I can send you over like how do we help you remove the click tags and build the agentic experiences. How we even have a requirement template. So you put a persona, the outcome, how is it done today, and then you can actually design the agentic path. What context does it need? Inference data. What the experience is going to be, and what's going to be the AI input. It will allow you to do it, and then obviously iterate and measure, because again, it's non-deterministic endpoint. So you need to have the tools to see what's going on, and to be able to respond to changing behavior of users.
Awesome. I'm gonna grab your LinkedIn link right now and drop it in the chat if they wanted to get that template. I have it with me, so I'm going to copy the link address, drop it in the chat. here. So if anybody wants to connect with Mickey, Mickey, thank you so much.